It's time to look at the best graphics cards to buy in August 2025 and which graphics cards should you absolutely avoid. Welcome back to PC Builder, I'm Jason. Now the good news is that graphics card prices, they're actually cheaper in August 2025 than they were for even Amazon Prime Day last month. That is something that we have never seen before. So whether you're looking for the best budget graphics card, the best 1440p graphics card, or the best 4K graphics card in August 2025, we've got the pick for you. If you get value out of this video, please give it a like and of course subscribe for more cool PC content. Let's jump into it. This video is sponsored by Jawa, the gaming marketplace to buy and sell gaming gear at competitive prices. Looking to buy a used GPU from a vetted seller at a great price? I found this RTX 3060 12GB MSI Ventus 3-fan model in great shape, selling for $235. Or pick up a full gaming PC built by boutique sellers fitting any budget. I found this gaming PC with an i7-8700 and RX 580 8GB GPU for just $346. And Jawa's buyer and seller protection ensures safe and reliable transactions. If you are looking to buy or sell new or used components or even entire PC systems, check out Jawa today using the link in the video description. All right, let's start off with current GPU pricing, starting with NVIDIA GPU prices in August 2025. Now, as I said, usually after Amazon Prime Day, prices spike up pretty hard, and they usually stay there till like mid-September, but we are seeing something that we've never seen before, which are GPU prices. They're continuing to fall, now at least in the US market. In particular, RTX 5090 prices continue to march downwards to just above $2,600 US, and unlike previous months, it isn't just one model, but there's now many models in the $2,500 up to $2,800 price range. Meanwhile, the RTX 5080 price, it finally budged down from nearly $1,400 last month to $1,264 this month. And there are actually 3 other listings right around that price. So hopefully something has finally shifted for RTX 5080 availability, because it remains embarrassingly above its MSRP of $950. The RTX 5070 Ti price continues to fall after Prime Day, all the way down to $789, and there were briefly models available at MSRP at $749, but they all sold out in a day and they haven't come back in stock. But the price has fallen sharply from $840 last month, and that's a great sign for one of the best 1440p graphics cards available right now. The RTX 5070, it's a bit of a letdown as the $549 models are currently sold out. So the cheapest one right now is $579. No real change for the RTX 5060 Ti 16GB price, but the $429 MSRP models, they're now in stock more often, whereas last month they kept selling in and out of stock, and you had to pay almost $480 to get it reliably. No change for the rest of the stack, except you can actually buy an RTX 3060 12GB again for about $260, and the RTX 5050 is available at its $249 MSRP. Now let's move over to AMD Radeon GPU pricing. No real changes to pricing, which again, that's a good thing because in any other year, prices would have bounced right up. Now looking specifically at the RX 9070 XT 16GB GPU prices, well, the lowest priced model, ASRock Steel Legend, it hasn't gone down from $699. What we do see is more models moving down in price and coming into stock, like the Asus Prime RX 9070 XT OC model, which you can now reliably get for $719. And meanwhile, the Gigabyte RX 9070 XT 16GB gaming OC model, it's also easily available without a combo finally for $729. Unfortunately, while the 9070 XT remains at a decent price, it's frustratingly 17% over its $599 MSRP. Meanwhile, 9070 prices remain stable, and you can now readily pick up 2 different models at that price, the ASRock Challenger 9070 and the Sapphire Pulse RX 9070. Meanwhile, you can pick up the RX 9060 XT 16GB easily at $369 and occasionally dips down about $10 with no real change to the rest of GPU pricing. Intel slashed GPU prices after Prime Day now, with the Arc B580 12GB down to almost MSRP at $259 for the Onyx model, and that's down from $300 last month. And the Arc B570 10GB drops down $20 to $239. Meanwhile, the Arc A750 does come back into stock at $229. Let's start off with the best graphics card under $300 in August 2025, and I'll put up our data showing average FPS for 1080p and 1440p ultra settings for all the GPUs in this price range. With the new RTX 5050 and Intel Arc A750 now in stock and in the mix, we have 10 graphics cards between $200 and $300 US. But despite so much GPU choice, they all have downsides. All of the 8GB GPUs, they perform okay at 1080p in many titles, but they do run out of VRAM in some titles even at 1080p at ultra settings. And 1440p, it's just a real struggle in VRAM hungry titles, and things are just going to get worse in the future. Meanwhile, the Arc B570 10GB and the Arc B580 12GB GPUs, they have more VRAM, but they also have a CPU overhead issue, and they will require at least an i5-12400 or Ryzen 5600 or better CPU to play well at 1440p. And while they're usable at 1080p, there's an even higher CPU bottleneck at that resolution. They also don't have DLSS 4 or FSR 4, which we get with the RTX 50 series and RX 9000 series. Even though Intel's XeSS upscaler, it's pretty good, game support remains a challenge. But as long as you have a decent CPU, even without the upscaling, these GPUs should be good for around 60 average FPS at 1440p ultra settings in most single-player titles, and substantially more in those competitive titles out there. Now, the RTX 3060 12GB, it is an alternative here. It has DLSS 4 upscaling, though it's slower than the Arc B580. Should you consider the RTX 5050 8GB for $249? Well, as long as the RTX 3060 12GB is available for just a couple bucks more, and with 12 gigs of VRAM on it, the only thing is it's just slightly slower. It does have DLSS 4. I just don't see the value of the RTX 5050 at $249. Personally, I think the RTX 5050 needs to be under 200 bucks, along with the RX 7600 8GB, RX 6600, and man, maybe we just got to throw the RTX 3050 in the trash can. Closer to $300 should you consider the RX 9060 XT or RTX 5060 8GB GPUs. Well, if you only play competitive titles with low VRAM usage, I'm thinking like CS2 or Valorant, the best value, it's likely the RX 9060 XT 8GB GPU, which does have FSR 4 and it's significantly faster than the RTX 5060. But at 300 bucks, we are so close to getting the best budget 1440p GPU on the market right now that you should at least consider the next category. If this whole decision seems like a struggle to you, check out our recent Boost My build where I took on a $650 PC build. Yes, $650 in 2025, and I struggled with exactly this question. All right, now let's look at the best graphics card under $400 US, which is where you're gonna find the best budget 1440p graphics card in 2025. Now, I've kept in the 3 top graphics cards from the previous categories for comparison, and now we also have the absolutely horrific RTX 5060 Ti 8GB at $353, and the insane value RX 9060 XT 16GB GPU. Now, occasionally you'll find a model for about 10 bucks less, but the RX 9060 XT 16GB, it currently represents the best value for 1440p budget to lower mid-range gamers in 2025. Not only do you get 16 gigabytes of VRAM, 2 thumbs up there, you also get FSR 4 upscaling. Now, while this card, it's about the same speed as the previous generation RX 7700 XT 12GB, the addition of more VRAM and FSR 4 makes this GPU worthwhile. The big question is whether you should consider the RTX 5060 Ti 16GB in the next category, which we'll get into in just a moment. But please, under no circumstances should you buy the RTX 5060 Ti 8GB for essentially the same price. It's a fast graphics card that's heavily bottlenecked at 1440p by its very small VRAM size and is likely to age absolutely terribly. Moving up to the best graphics card under $500 US, and this is really a head-to-head matchup of the RX 9060 XT 16GB versus the RTX 5060 Ti 16GB. Now, in rasterized performance across a large average of games, these GPUs, they're basically evenly matched. Now, of course, some games favor Radeon GPUs slightly, some games favor NVIDIA GPUs slightly, but you can feel pretty comfortable that you're gonna buy any game you want and you're gonna play it at high or ultra details at 1440p with no issues and at good frame rates. Both have excellent upscalers, with FSR 4 on the 9060 XT 16GB and DLSS 4 having slightly wider game adoption because FSR 4, it's the new kid on the block, but FSR 4 does seem to be catching up very quickly. The 9060 XT 16GB, it also has good ray tracing for a card of this price point, but if we're being honest here, neither of these GPUs is an enthusiast level ray tracing GPU. Go out and get yourself a 5070 Ti or bigger if that's what you're looking for. It really comes down to price, and personally for me, the 60 bucks, it represents a 1TB NVMe SSD difference. And honestly, I'd rather have that than the small upscaling differences. But you also can't go wrong here. Both of these GPUs are great budget 1440p gaming options, so pick the right one for your wallet. Let's move to the best graphics card under $600 right now in August 2025. And now they're really heating up. Now, I've kept in the previous tier of GPUs for comparison, and now we add in the RX 9070 16GB for $599 versus the RTX 5070 12GB for $579. These cards are substantially faster than the previous tier, and some of the best 1440p graphics cards in 2025 at the mid-range. A quick note on these FPS numbers: Hardware Unboxed recently redid its launch testing of the RTX 5070 Ti and RX 9070 XT GPUs. They found that 9070 XT, it's about 10% faster now than it was at the launch, and even slightly faster than the RTX 5070 Ti, which itself is about 3% faster than its launch day. Nobody's yet tested the RX 9070 non-XT model, but I suspect it's also probably quite a bit faster than the launch numbers, so the 9070 might be further ahead than I'm showing here. The RX 9070 has 16GB of VRAM along with FSR4 and much better ray tracing than previous AMD graphics cards. Meanwhile, the RTX 5070 has 12GB of VRAM. It's slightly slower in rasterization, but it does have DLSS 4 with currently wider game support. The 12GB of VRAM on the RTX 5070 means it sometimes has worse ray tracing performance than even the RTX 5060 Ti 16GB, though I do believe 12GB of VRAM is still fine for regular 1440p gaming in 2025. I lean heavily towards the RX 9070 16GB for this reason, though if there were a 16 or 18GB version of the RTX 5070, I think that would be the way to go at this price point. Maybe we'll get that with the 5070 Super in 2026, but right now I think this is an easy win for the 9070. All right, let's jump into the best graphics card under $800 US in 2025, which got a whole lot spicier with some big price cuts to the RTX 5070 Ti 16GB. Now that, along with the RX 9070 XT 16GB, are our new additions. We're almost at a point where we can call this the best GPU under $700. Now I've also left in the previous tier for comparison. The RX 9070 XT at $699, it's a very powerful offering, but it is supposed to be about $150 cheaper than the RTX 5070 Ti. Right now, that's a lot closer to about $90 to $100 cheaper. Now note that I've changed my numbers a bit due to the recent Hardware Unboxed testing, which showed the 9070 XT, it's about 10% faster than at launch day, possibly slightly faster overall than the RTX 5070 Ti. The RX 9070 XT basically brings RX 7900 XTX levels of GPU performance at about 70% of the price, with way better ray tracing and FSR4. Meanwhile, if you want enthusiast level ray tracing, the RTX 5070 Ti is definitely the way to go. Not only is it powerful enough to enable a decent experience given how much FPS you do lose when you turn ray tracing on, it has 16GB of VRAM, which means it actually doesn't run out of VRAM in ray tracing workloads. If ultra high-end ray tracing isn't that important to you, it's really a toss-up then, and I could see folks going either way. Now we have videos on the best 5070 Ti and RX 9070 XT models if you need help picking out a specific model, but honestly, you can't go wrong with either one. Moving over to the best graphics card 2025 in August for any price point. And once again, honestly just comes down to whether or not you want to buy an RTX 5090, which is getting downright affordable. If by affordable you mean that you were considering a GPU whose MSRP is about $2,000, and its real MSRP I'm guessing is closer to about $2,300, maybe $2,500. The whole point of getting an RTX 5090 is getting the fastest GPU on the planet. But the longer you wait, the shorter amount of time you're gonna have that bragging right. Remember, at some point in about 2 years, we are gonna have an RTX 6090 at least, if not also a high-end Radeon GPU to contend with it. So at about $2,500, my advice is pull the trigger on it if you want it. It's insanely fast, it's got 32GB of VRAM, it's got excellent ray tracing, DLSS 4, it's essentially the biggest, baddest GPU out there, and it enables another entire tier of performance. Now, if you want to jump up from the RTX 5070 Ti or RX 9070 XT to the RTX 5080, this is the part where I remind you of how badly priced the RTX 5080 is right now. Now, it only has 16GB of VRAM for about $1,300. It's slower than the RTX 4090, not that you can buy an RTX 4090 anymore, even the used ones are crazy high priced. But the RTX 5080 is 10 to maybe 12% faster than the RX 9070 XT at almost double the price. Closer to the $950 MSRP, this might be a more compelling upgrade, but it's super hard to justify right now. Quick note on the RX 7900 XTX. I noticed a number of models are coming back into stock. It looks like AMD just found some leftover stock around $900 US. And I've seen some of your Boost My Build submissions where you're submitting builds with the 7900 XTX. I just want to let you know out there, don't buy it at $899. It was a great GPU in its day. Its day has passed. The current GPU you want to buy if you're looking for a Radeon GPU is the 9070 XT. Yes, it's slightly slower, along with the 5070 Ti, slightly slower than the 7900 XTX, but FSR 4 or DLSS 4, they're much better upscalers. And I just think you're going to be much better served by those GPUs. Not only that, but they're cheaper. All right, let's play everyone's favorite game. Should you buy now or should you wait? Well, honestly, I'm shocked at these prices in August after Amazon Prime Day. Now, usually this is the month that I tell you, too bad you missed out on Prime Day sales, come back in October. But honestly, the prices have continued to sink. Now, this is something we have absolutely never seen before. Now, if you're a budget buyer, it is possible that we'll see some kind of continued price movement like under $300, possibly even under $200 with that huge logjam of graphics cards. Obviously, each of them have their own issues. I'm not sure how much more price movement we're going to see for like the RX 9060 XT 16GB. Maybe a model hits MSRP, maybe slightly below, but we're talking about $10 or $20. Same with the RTX 5060 Ti 16GB. Now the big question mark here, it remains the RX 9070 XT 16GB and whether AMD is going to respond to lowered RTX 5070 Ti prices. Now AMD has been struggling to even get that GPU reliably in stock due to strong demand. Remember, it didn't launch that long ago, and NVIDIA has struggled to get the RTX 5070 Ti in stock reliably under $900, and that's helped drive that demand. But now that the 5070 Ti has finally cracked the $800 price point, I'm hopeful we'll see AMD be able to lower the prices as well, but I wouldn't bet on it anytime soon. If you're waiting to buy an RTX 5080, my advice is don't. I think you'd be just as happy with the 5070 Ti for a lot less money, and you'd have it right now. Meanwhile, if you want a 5090, I'd grab it now because I'm not sure how much cheaper it's going to get in 2025. And of course, all the usual warnings if you live in the US about all that tariff uncertainty out there. Just know that at any moment, everything could change and GPU prices could be forced upwards. All these graphics cards are linked down in the video description, along with the best current GPU values that we can find, and we'll keep updating that throughout August as deals drop. So check out those links for current pricing and availability in your region. If you got value out of this video, please do give it a like. It really does make a difference. And of course, subscribe for more cool PC content like our recent Boost My Build episode. We took on a $650 build challenge and a $1,300 build, making all of the typical first-time PC builder mistakes. Don't get caught making these very same mistakes on your next PC build. Check it out, and we'll catch you on the next one.